Okay, we're going to start with Lesson 2.7, Decompose to Subtract. We've been working with addition, but now we're going to be working with subtraction. How are they the same? How are they different? Well, if we look at this one, it's broken up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. Are they all even? Nope, they're not all even parts. But if I drew a line right here, then it would be, I have 4 green and 1 blue. This one, it's broken up into parts. You've got 1 whole red and 3 green. They're different shapes, but look, these 2 shapes are the same, and these 2 shapes are the same. But this one has 1, and this one has 2. Oh, and this one has all 3. So, it's broken up differently, isn't it? So we're going to learn first. Samir and Jen subtract 353 by 184. Samir decomposes the number to subtract. Jen decomposes the same number a different way to subtract. Will Jen find the same difference as Samir? Remember, when you see the word difference, you know you're subtracting. So 184 was broken down to 100, 80, and then 4. 184 was broken down to 153, 30, and then 1. Well, so if we add 30 to 153, we get 183, and then 1 more is 184. So yes, so they're both decomposed. But we've got to figure out why they're decomposed that way and which one works better. So one strategy you can use is to decompose the second number in your subtraction problem and then take it away. But look, they're using the answer and then putting the answer down here and then taking away the next, and then using the answer that they get from that one, putting it down here, and subtracting the next to get the answer. Now, please, please, please be very careful. Subtraction and addition, you have to watch those signs. When we were doing partial sums, you broke it down and then you added it all across and then came straight down. This one, you can't do that. When you subtract, you have to use your answer and bring it down to the next line. Another way you can subtract is, she decomposed it differently and she's subtracting that. So she said, I'm going to subtract 153. The reason she subtracted 153 is because our original number had 53 in it, and she knew she had to take 100 away. So she took 153 away, and she got an even 200. Then she could put the 200 down here. Then when she took 30 away, she got the 170, and then she moved it down here and took 1 away and still got 169. So this is decomposing for subtraction. So it's a little bit different, children. So one subtraction strategy is to decompose one number and then subtract the parts from the total. You can decompose numbers in different ways to subtract. No matter how we break that number apart, we can still subtract to it. So we're going back to lessons before, and we're finding compatible numbers that will be easier to subtract. So Hannah subtracts 572 by 178 or 378. How can Hannah decompose one number in 2 different ways to subtract? Okay, this one's going to be a little bit more challenging. I want you to pause it and I want you to try to work this out. Okay, if you tried to work it out and you have put 572 minus 378 equals, and you did it this way. You said, well, I have to start with 572, and then I can take away my 300, and I have 72 that I could take away there. So I'm going to put 72. So I'm going to take away 372. And that means I'm going to have 200 left. So I'll put my 200 down here. But I've used 72 of this number because when I take 378 and I decompose it, 372, that means that I only have 6 left because I'm breaking apart 378. So over here, that means I need to subtract 6 more. And if I take away 6 more, I know it's going to be 194, because if I add 194 to 6, I'm going to get back to my 200. That's how we always check, remember? So as long as you got to the answer of 194, you are correct. Let's look over here on the next page. How can you decompose the number in 2 ways? We're going to focus just on 1 way, because 2 ways can be confusing and we really don't have enough room. So if I decompose this 367, I can go 300, I can go 60, and then I can go 7. Now there's more ways to do that. There's so many ways. You can break it apart so many ways. You can go 360 and then put 7, and you've only broke it down into 2 parts. 876, you can go 800, you can go 70, you can go 6. You could also break it down to 870 and then 6. Or you can break it down to 830 and then 46. So decomposing, there can be so many different answers there, as long as when you put them all back together, you get your starting number. How can you decompose one number to subtract? Okay? And then it says, why did you choose that way? We're not going to write the reason why. But let's look at this. If it's 122, I can take 495 and I can subtract 100 from it. So I'm taking my 100. So that's going to give me 395 left. Remember, I've got to move this down here, so now I put 395 here, and I subtract what? If you wrote down 20, you're correct. And when I subtract that, I'm going to get 375. Now I've got to move my 375 down here and subtract what? Yep, you got to subtract 2. Equals 373. So my answer should be 373. Now remember, with subtraction, if I take this part and add them back together, I should get what I start with my whole, because we start with our whole in subtraction, because we're taking away. Alright, let's look at this one. If I start with 639 and I subtract 300, I get what? Yes, you're correct. You get 339, because I took 300s away from 600s. Now I need to put this down here. 339 minus the next one I have is 70. Uh-oh. Does that make friendly numbers? I agree, it does not. So I don't want to take away 70. I'm going to take away what they have. So I'm going to take away 30. So that means I have 40 left out of my 70. If I take that away, I'm going to get 309. Now I can go 309 and subtract 40 because I decomposed my 70 into 30 and 40. And then if I take that away, I'm going to get 269. Because if I take 4 away from 30 tens, it's going to give me 26 tens, and then my ones stay the same. Now, you're going to work this out. Some of you use the old school way, which is fine, and that's usually a go-to. But today's lesson, remember, is the decomposing. So I know there's a lot of kids that can write this down and subtract right across. That's not what I want. What I want is you to decompose them. So if I have 200 and I take away 182, I can put 284 minus 1. Ooh, look at this. I can, ooh, see, since it's like this, and I know my 8 tenths, I automatically want to do 180 because I know I would have only 104 left. And if I take away 180, all I need to do is subtract 2 more. See how I found those compatible numbers? Now if I add 102 back to 182, because of my fact family, I should get back to my whole, which is 284. I love they do problems like this because remember that equal sign is just a balance. Whatever's on this side has to be on this side. So whatever the answer to this is has to be over here. So looking at this, I can see I can do fine in my ones and my tens, but then when I get to my subtracting my, I do fine in my hundreds and tens, but when I get to my ones, then I'm struggling because if I take 4 away from 3, I'm going to have to regroup. So I'm going to go ahead and decompose 114 into 110, and that's going to give me 223. Now I still need to subtract 4, so I come down with my 223 and subtract 4. Well, if I take 3 away, I still have to take 1 more away, and if I take 3 away, it would be 220, but if I take 1 more away, that's going to be 219. Subtraction's a big reason why you need to be able to count backwards. 219. Pause the video and try to work this one out and get to your answer. Then Miss Haycraft will solve. Alright. So 502 minus, I'm going to say 300, equals 202. Then I'll put 202 down here. And I'm going to subtract. I already took my 300 away. I'm going to take my 80 away. Ugh. Maybe I don't want to take my 80 away because I see something that matches. I could take my ones away, couldn't I? So I'm going to take my ones away first and get to 200. And then I'm going to take my 80 away. And that's going to be 120. So hopefully on your strategy with your decomposing, you got 120 as well. You don't have to have this match, but you have to have the answer matched. Then we've got 744 minus 466. So I'm going to start out with 744, and I'm going to take away 400 first. And that's going to give me 344. So my 400's gone. 344 minus, and I should have stopped you. You should pause it and work it out yourself first. You don't have to copy Miss Haycraft on how I've got it started, but you should be able to get to the same answer that I get to. So, can I take 60 away from there and it be good? Not really. I really can't do that, but I could take 40 away, couldn't I? If I took 40 away, that means I would have 2 10s left. So let's take away 40, and that's going to give me 304. Then move 304 down here, and if I take away 2 more 10s, that's going to give me 284. So now I took away that 2. Now I've got to take away 6. Yeah, my lights kicked off in the room because I Miss Haycraft wasn't moving. Alright, so I need to still take away 6. So I go down here and say 284 minus 4. If I take 4 away from it, I still have 2 left. Is going to be 280, and then 280 minus 2 equals 278. 278. So 278 goes up there. Hopefully you got there. Look how far Miss Haycraft decomposed this one. And look how short she did this one. So it's all about finding those compatible numbers to make it make sense when you're decomposing. Alright. So, Juan subtracts 345 by 101. He decomposes 101 into 110. And subtracts parts from 345. How can you help him understand his mistake? I want you to write this. Miss Haycraft's not going to write it. So pause the video and write it. Now, if you wrote something like, well, he decomposed it to 110, and it should have been decomposed to 101. He was in the incorrect place value. Then you're correct. I'm going to stop there. We're not going to do any more of this. You're going to go on and do your exit ticket.